All right, here's another feel-good story. You ready? So you got a whole bunch of men and women in prison, right? And what God is doing is he's lifting up some ministries to be able to go in and minister to them. That's not news. We all know that, right? You got prison ministries. What is new is the whole idea of turning prisoners into pastors. Now, get the concept. What if we could go into prisons and provide the inmates a curriculum to where they have the tools necessary to become pastors and ministers and go back to the hood. You know what I mean? Go back to the hood and start a church there and then reach the people just like them. Because most of these people don't have the resources to ever go to Talbot or Fuller, right, or Dallas. I mean, come on. So, but they are uniquely equipped to go and minister to their people. You know what I mean? And that's a God thing. So guess what? It's not a what if. It's a reality. And it's a partnership between World Impact and Prison Fellowship. It's called TUMI, T-U-M-I, the Urban Ministry Institute. And the whole idea is to turn prisoners into pastors. And they get a great education, basically everything but Greek and Hebrew. It's taught by qualified instructors. The curriculum is excellent. And there is a huge announcement that they want to make because they've been praying for this, and it's been successful where it has been tried, and it's got a great track record. But something big just happened. And Jim Liske, the president of Prison Fellowship, joins us on the phone. Keith Phillips, president of World Impact, is in studio with me here. And so, Jim, Keith said he wants you to sort of share the news because this is very cool. So, Jim Liske, president of Prison Fellowship, lay this out, man. What happened?
Hey, thanks, Frank. You know, it is huge news. And those of you in California know the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation hasn't brought a lot of great news, but they have worked with us very closely and have given World Impact and Prison Fellowship the permission to open 32 TUMI classes across the state over the next 24 months, which means nearly 1,000 inmates will have the opportunity to move from prisoners to pastors and have the chance to go back to their communities to, take the corners they were maybe breaking the law on and now share the gospel of Jesus Christ in those places.
All right, so 32 classes over the next 24 months in the California prisons. And Keith Phillips, how many prisons are there in California?
There's 26 prisons. We're presently in 5 prisons with 7 TUMI classes with about 212 men who are incarcerated trained to be pastors.
So wait, you're going to jump from 5 prisons all the way up to 26 prisons and do these 32 classes?
Well, we're going to be adding 1,000 inmates, and the exciting thing is that those men are eager to meet the qualifications to be trained to rightly divide the word of truth. Some, of course, will pastor behind the bars.
Yeah.
Some will come out after a strong Christian leadership training program that has everything I got in seminary, as you mentioned, minus the Greek and the Hebrew.
Right.
But they're going to come back to the cities with a trained, recognized profession. They're going to become pastors.
So, Jim Liske, what difference does this make? You've seen this up and running. You've seen the impact it's made, and I know because you gush about the recidivism rate if you go through prison fellowship programs and things like that. I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, if you turn them into pastors, like, who's going to recidivate? You know what I mean? So it's like wildly successful.
Oh, it is, Frank. I actually was just in Florida yesterday at the South Bay facility where we have one of the TUMI sites here in the United States because we are hoping and praying and planning that this is going to move then out of California across the entire country. And where there is a TUMI program in a prison, the prison officials will tell you it's a safer prison because these guys don't wait to be pastors. They don't wait to graduate to be pastors. They are changing the environments inside the walls as they're part of the Church of Jesus Christ. And then some of the guys that will graduate from TUMI and stay will actually then become part of a movement inside the walls. And it's such a wonderful partnership with us and World Impact. Because TUMI exists outside the walls in the urban communities. So if a prisoner is not able to finish while they're incarcerated, when they come out, they will continue right on in the urban areas with their education. And so with World Impact's desire to see the urban centers of our country restored, and Prison Fellowship's desire to see the church inside the walls restored, and guys, men and women, getting out and staying out, Believe me, this is a match made in heaven, and personally, I'm incredibly thankful for World Impact and their partnership with us.
All right, so the website is TUMI.org. I want everyone to understand that. If you have a loved one that is incarcerated, please let them know that this is now available to turn prisoners into pastors, and that's TUMI.org. Jim, listen, before I let you go, there's probably people at the Department of Corrections that you want to thank. I mean, who green-lighted this thing, because this is a big deal that you are now green-lighted to go into every prison in the state of California. That's awesome.
It is a very big deal, Frank. Not only have they green-lighted our entry, but they have allowed TUMI to become part of the education curriculum and not the faith-based curriculum. Now, let me tell you the significance of that. When an inmate is in a faith-based program, if it's time for them to be relocated to a different facility, they can be pulled out of that program and to be moved, and if the new facility doesn't have the program, they're not able to finish. But with TUMI being in the education curriculum, that means that the State Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation will not move that inmate until they're done with the program. And so the individuals with the state have been incredibly gracious, and in helping us do this means that we're going to have qualified men and women coming out of prison, and World Impact's going to be able to use them to plant churches in the urban areas. And, and there's the cycle. We talk about the cycle of crime increasing. This, to me, gives us an opportunity to actually reverse the cycle now. It's not only reducing recidivism, but now it's reducing the pipeline that is putting our young people in prison.
All right, so, Jim, listen, I'll bet you've got a kabillion stories. Tell me just one successful story of a TUMI graduate, a man that has gone back to, quote, the hood and started a church or made a difference.
Well, there was a young man that, Frank, you and I and Keith heard at the TUMI banquet last fall.
Yes.
And here he was, a drug addict, and he was a very successful businessman as a drug dealer. And not only did he break the law, but he broke the law in the community that his father was the chief of police in.
Yes.
Finds himself in prison, finds himself really having embarrassed his family at the end of himself, and finds Christ, enters TUMI. And not only gets out of prison and is a graduate of TUMI, but now he's continuing on and continuing with his theological education on a pastoral staff right there in California.
Awesome.
And doing exactly what we're saying God can do with literally now hundreds and 1,000 inmates and more in the state of California coming back to say, hey, not only did God redeem me, but now I can be part of you being able to redeem yourself.
All right, so Jim,
be finding redemption in Christ yourself.
Jim Liske, what do you need? I'm going to ask Keith here in a second. I'm going to let you go here in a moment. So,
sure.
Jim, what do you need? I mean, I got a big audience here in Los Angeles. Do you need curriculum? You need money? You need sponsors? What do you need?
Well, let me put it right on the bottom line. It's about $1,200 a year per inmate. And that gets the inmate access to the theological library that needs to be part of this. This is a rigorous education program. It gives them access to a theological library. It buys all of their curriculum for them, all of their workbooks, so they're able to be part of it, and then helps defray the cost of the administrative fees that are there, making sure that they're they're hitting all their marks in their education curriculum, and it allows us then to really serve them well. We're going to need some volunteers in the prisons. I met a gal down in South Bay and here in Florida, and she's a retired school teacher, and she does all the correcting of the papers for these guys. She calls them her sons, 50 guys, and she does all the correcting, and we would love to have some people who have that capacity to help these guys not only write their papers, but how to refine them, how to become excellent communicators so when they're communicating the gospel, they do it well. We're going to need some volunteers to come in and do some tutoring and to teach at the tables and do some facilitating. And we will need individuals that are willing then to say to their pastors, when these guys are coming out, say, Pastor, hey, we should bring on a TUMI graduate as an individual who's going to intern here and really maybe free our pastors up to do some mentoring of these men and women when they come out of prison so that we can be part of duplicating and planting the church and seeing the inner city around our country find its ability to break the cycle, rebuild the family, and reduce the violence.
All right, so Keith, this is men and women, right? Or is it just for guys?
Presently, it's just for guys.
It's just for guys. Okay, because he said men and women. I'm not sure. Okay, so, folks, if you want to get involved in the TUMI program, the website is TUMI.org. As Jim Liske, president of Prison Fellowship, just said, it's $1,200 per inmate. And Keith, is that one time or is that the whole thing?
That's $1,200 per year per inmate
over
the course of the event for them to get their entire seminary level education.
And how long does it typically take them in the curriculum?
3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Depending, again, on how many days a week they're allowed to study.
Awesome. No, this is very cool. All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to continue with Keith Phillips, president of World Impact. We'll say goodbye to Jim Liske, president of Prison Fellowship. And again, big announcement. The TUMI program, the Urban Ministry Institute, is now green-lighted in the state of California to go into all 26 California prisons. They're going to blow up from 5 classes to 32 classes over the next 24 months. Instead of dozens and maybe 100 of students in the TUMI program, now you're talking like over 1,000. So it's very, very cool. If you want to get involved and you know who you are, go to TUMI.org. Quick break. We'll continue with Keith Phillips here on the Frank Pastore Show at 99.5 KKLA. Here's rapid traffic from the Azusa Pacific University Traffic Center.
Rough ride making your way along the 210 going eastbound now from the 134. Heavy in pockets leaving Pasadena, and it remains that way towards the Citrus exit. Your 10 eastbound commute is heavy at Eastern. By the time you hit Baldwin Park Boulevard, speeds improve. The 60 east is still going to be slow and go from the 5 out of Boyle Heights on into the 57 in the Diamond Bar area. Look for brake lights on the 110 north from Vernon to the 5. Your southbound ride on the 110 is sticky from Stadium Way all the way towards Gage. And the Santa Monica Freeway loaded up 10 eastbound in pockets from 20th Street all the way towards the 5 interchange. Westbound 10 heavy from the 110, making your way on out towards the 405. And this report is brought to you by Angels Baseball. The Angels 20-game flex ticket plan lets you choose the 20 games you want to see and includes a free ticket for Fan Appreciation Day. Buy your flex plan today at angels.com/mini plans. Just the major types that'll slow you down. Rapid traffic, 99.5 KKLA.
You make good money every month, but where is it all going? Have you ever asked yourself, shouldn't we be doing better than this? Hello, I'm Dr. Kevin Downing with Turning Point Stewardship. At Turning Point Stewardship, we'll do the work of managing your personal finances. We'll pay your bills every month, establish an emergency fund, save for college, and automate your giving. We'll make sure that vacations and Christmas are paid in advance. We take care of your money exactly the way you want. All this for about the same amount you'd pay someone to mow your lawn. Visit us at turningpointstewardship.com and see how we've helped other families just like yours. Eliminate the headaches over paying bills and money conflicts at turningpointstewardship.com. Call us now at 800-296-5899. That's 800-296-5899. Where is all your money going? Just where you want it to with Turning Point Stewardship. Call 800-296-5899.
Hi, this is Paul, founder and CEO of Financial Recovery USA, and you won't believe what we just did. We just sold a client's second mortgage for 10 cents on the dollar. I am really excited about this. One family came to Financial Recovery USA for help, and we saved them $82,000. Now their second mortgage is paid. It's gone. So if you owe more on your home than it's worth and you're having trouble making ends meet, call us now and let's see if we can help you drastically reduce your second mortgage and get that debt burden gone for good. For years, we've been helping KKLA listeners get out of this mortgage mess, and settling your second mortgage for less than what you owe is a huge step to get you and your family back on track. We're always busy serving families, but if you call right now, we'll make sure that you get a free face-to-face consultation to see if we can help you get rid of that second mortgage.
Call Financial Recovery USA at 877-995-5552. 877-995-5552. That's 877-995-5552.
The Frank Pastore Show is brought to you in part by the Masters College and Forest Lawn Memorial Parks and Mortuaries.
I didn't want a divorce. I wanted to save our marriage.
We have to share the kids now. How do I tell them Dad's not coming home?
I've never worked before. I'm a stay-at-home mom. What am I going to do?
Divorce can devastate a family. When counseling fails or your spouse decides they don't want to be married anymore, you need to protect yourself and your family. You need DeWitt Family Law on your side.
Knowing I had rights filled me with hope. Steve listened and gave me the strength to move forward. I don't know where I'd be without DeWitt Family Law.
When you're faced with the devastation of an unwanted divorce or separation and all hope seems gone, call the offices of DeWitt Family Law. Their experienced attorneys have been serving Orange County and the Inland Empire since 1972. Call Steve or Vic at DeWitt's Family Law at 888-335-HOPE. Mention KKLA for your free consultation. DeWitt Family Law. Finally, a way of hope. 888-335-HOPE. 888-335-HOPE.
April, who's that lady over there? She looks familiar.
That lady is... Oh, it's Sue Freeze, the termite lady from Ecola.
Oh, from Ecola. Termites. I hear her radio ads with those two little termites.
Yeah, she's one of the few women in the pest control business. And Ecola is the pest control company we use.
Really? Why?
Well, they're effective. We got swarmed by termites, and Ecola got rid of them.
With a tent?
No, they'll use that if they have to. But our people showed us their Ecola heat, electrogun, borax, and other family-friendly, pet-friendly methods that they use. We didn't have to move out or bag our food. They took care of our termites in a couple of hours.
Oh, do you think you can introduce me? We might have a little problem at our house.
Sure, she's really friendly, like a neighbor. You'll like her.
Ecola Termite and Pest Control. For a free home evaluation, call 1-877-332-BUGS. 1-877-332-BUGS.
Ecola, powerful termite and pest control, as gentle as a butterfly, and neighbor approved. 877-332-BUGS.
Oh, very cool. Man, guys, you can't wait to hear the story. This is, better yet, I can't wait for you to hear the story. So I want you to picture this now. The whole idea is turning prisoners into pastors. What if, because the state is paying for their housing and they get the curriculum, these men who are prisoners are trained to be pastors. They go back in the hood where they're from, and they're ministers for the gospel. And they start churches and make a huge impact and things. That's the whole idea of TUMI. TUMI is an acronym, TUMI, for the Urban Ministry Institute. The website is TUMI.org. And I have Keith Phillips, the president of World Impact, in studio with me. Jim Liske was just here, and he had to catch a flight. He's the president of Prison Fellowship. It is the partnership of World Impact and Prison Fellowship. And they just got the green light, and they're announcing it here on the show, my show, that all 26 California prisons have now thrown open the door for the TUMI program. So they, over the next 24 months, they are going to just blow up. They're going to go from 5 classes to 32 classes, from dozens to hundreds, just quickly. And they need a whole bunch of stuff. And if God has been working on your heart to maybe grade papers or be a proctor or be a lecturer or be you know what I mean? Go to TUMI.org and just sort of see how you can help. Now, Keith, the story I want you to share, because you got a billion of them, but the one I want you to share is about the cheating thing. This is just great. I want people have seen enough TV shows and movies. They know what this would look like, but lay it out because it's just precious.
When we started one of the classes in one of the Southern California prisons, you have guys who have been in prison for quite a while, and you have younger men in there. After one of the first tests, some of the older guys stood up who had caught or seen the younger men cheating on TUMI exams. And they formulated their own code of ethics and said, if you guys aren't serious, you're out of here. Well, they formulated it. They hold people accountable. It starts to change everything that's going on.
Yeah, all of a sudden we're cheating on a ministry test. What's up with this? And the old guys enforce the young guys. It's just, that's great. That's a wonderful picture of what TUMI's all about. But Keith, lay out how these guys go back to where they're from and the impact they have.
Let me explain. World Impact, as you know, is committed to planting churches among America's unchurched urban poor. I wish I would have come up with this idea. I know that if you came with me to Watts, you could sit down for 30 minutes in any federal housing project and pick out the leaders. These guys are either leading gangs, they're perhaps leading drug networks, or doing other things. Now, can you imagine God taking those leaders out of the community, putting them in the venue where the state pays for the room and board, now giving us an opportunity to invest in them, similar to what the Apostle Paul had when God took him off that road of Damascus, and then bring them back into the cities. This Sunday I'm preaching at a man on my board by the name of George McKinney, who is the bishop of the Church of God in Christ in San Diego. George is so excited about this that he wants to get his entire denomination involved in welcoming these trained men back into the community as pastors. He will commit to take some of these men under his wing. He's a bishop. He has been there for years. He is respected in the city of San Diego. All over the state of California, in the next 2, 3, 4 years, there are going to be hundreds of men every year released from California prisons coming back into the city. Can you imagine going to an urban pastor and saying, you have a man with theological education, will you take him on your staff? He'll become bivocational, but entrust to him the teaching and the authority that is necessary to prove that what he has learned is being lived out, and then have the vision to send him out to plant other churches that will plant other churches. It is as if God has an army of men and women who potentially come back to the cities trained. There are 2.3 million people incarcerated in the United States today. And here is a legitimate program of training prisoners to become pastors.
All right, so Keith, what do you need? I mean, how can my listeners help?
Well, we need 2 or 3 things. Because they can't pay anything while they're incarcerated, it costs about $1,200 per year per prisoner. You can sponsor a prisoner. You can communicate with us, and we will get you the name of that individual so that you can pray for that prisoner and stand with him as he is going through his theological training.
Awesome.
Prison Fellowship is going to need mentors and the equivalent of registrars. This is not a 12-week Bible study. This is serious theological training. We need to have ordained ministers, people who've been teaching in the church for a while, who will come and study the Mentor's Guide and then train and equip these students. Now, I'm not talking about simple theological training that's elementary. I'm talking about everything that I got in seminary.
Right.
And these men will follow through, and they will blow your mind with how they study and hold each other accountable.
Yeah, this is not a 10 or 12-week Bible study kind of conference or just curriculum. This is a 3 or 4 year, it's seminary training without the Greek and Hebrew.
Yeah, it is.
And the curriculum, who put the curriculum together, Keith?
Dr. Don Davis on our staff. Don's got his Ph.D. in theology from the University of Iowa. He's an African-American theologian that could teach in any seminary in the country. He had directed our ministry in Kansas before he went back and got his doctoral degree, and has a commitment to training and equipping urban leaders. Awesome. We have about 1,000 men and women going through the Urban Ministry Institute in more than 45 cities across the United States. These are not prisoners.
Right.
These are pastors in the city.
Oh, wow.
Jim mentioned earlier Kerry, the young man who got out, gave his testimony at the Reagan Library.
Yes, his dad was the chief of police.
Yeah. Now Kerry is in leadership outside of the prison in the Urban Ministry Institute in Riverside, California.
Awesome.
And I believe we have 40 or 50 men there being trained to pastor. I mean, this is multiplication that is going to change our cities. Again, Frank, just for a second, can you imagine San Francisco, Fresno, Los Angeles, San Diego receiving hundreds of trained pastors every year?
Well, and that pastors that are from the hood.
That's right.
You know, and I don't want to be too blunt, but they're not like bald 54-year-old white guys like me.
That's right.
They grew up in the hood. They're there. They know the lingo. They were there. They were the drug dealer, 12 years ago kind of thing.
They
can meet them. They can reach these guys.
They will have this strange badge of honor.
Awesome.
They have been in Folsom, but they're going to come back to the streets in the strong name of Jesus.
I love it. I love it. All right, so Keith, you need what now? You need $1,200 per year per inmate so people can donate to TUMI.org.
We need qualified mentors.
Right.
And then we need the equivalent of a volunteer who will virtually be a registrar.
Okay.
In other words, record the grades, do all of the things that are necessary.
How neat.
In each of these classes. I'll tell you what, we had our first graduation in Norco Prison. And more than 300 inmates showed up for this, cheering
great.
at their guys who had been through this course, who had finished it, and who were now being recognized for the accomplishment of finishing theological training and being sent to pastor churches and to be part of the church congregations and leadership.
Now, Keith, one of the things, I got to let you go here in a second, but Jim Liske, president of Prison Fellowship, just said during the break, make sure that Keith Phillips thanks the California Department of Corrections, and there's some people to personally thank who were big-time advocates for TUMI.
Well, there sure were, and most of the leadership in that department desperately need our thanks because they've stood with us. And the major thing is they transformed this from a religious class into training.
Awesome.
So that they are recognizing the pastorate as a legitimate vocation for which these guys can be trained. Let me tell you, Jim phoned me a few weeks ago standing outside a prison in Fort Lauderdale, and he said it had been one of the most amazing days of his life. He just spent the whole day with 50 inmates studying TUMI. He said these guys hold each other accountable in a way that doesn't happen normally in the church, and they're going to take the cities of Florida for Jesus. The warden said to him, it's cut the cost of guarding by about 50%.
Oh, man.
And this is a private prison called GeoCorp. He asked Jim on the spot, can I give you 5 more pods? 50 men a pod.
Wow.
So that we can increase from 50 to 250. We have waiting lists of people in Florida who want to enroll to become pastors. Geo is one of the largest private prisons in the country. They want us to expand in Florida, in New Mexico, I believe in Texas.
Wow.
The door is wide open for the Church of Jesus Christ. We don't know how long that door is going to stay open.
Right.
But at this point, it is open. And we have a responsibility to step into that gap and to provide solid theological training so that these guys can rightly divide the word of truth.
Awesome, Keith. I'm so pumped about this. And so, folks, look, if you want to help, go to the website for TUMI, and the TUMI is an acronym for the Urban Ministry Institute. It's TUMI.org, and God is just throwing doors open, not only here in the state of California, where they are now green-lighted to go into every single prison, but also nationally. And it's just very cool. TUMI.org. Keith Phillips, thank you. And we're going to be following this. And those of you listening, you know who you are if God is tugging at your heart. Get involved in this. TUMI.org, TUMI.org. Quick break. We'll continue. A brand new app that you got to hear about, and that's next as we continue at the intersection of faith and reason, straight ahead at 99.5 KKLA. 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 KK.